weapons in with them to attack people and kill people in that host country. So, you know, what Donald Trump originally said about stopping all Muslim immigration was not to ban them permanently,
yes,
but to try and figure out how to put a system in place that would prevent the bad actors from coming in and doing these things to us. And this is what's resonating with Americans right now. It's like, no, you don't have the right to come in here and preach hatred and preach, the killing and destruction of American assets.
Yeah, exactly right. And the problem is that all researchers know that it is embedded within the basic doctrine of Islam that the end game is to implement Sharia law and to overtake any other country. And I mean, it's not just even about hate speech, really, Patrick, here, because even that hate sort of term is used as a political correct sort of tool. But it is really about the intent to actually overthrow the system of governance in the country that has accepted them for asylum. And in most countries, this is, in Australia here, this is called treason. Any group or individual that endeavours to overthrow the government system, traditionally in all the West, that's recognised as treason. But the problem is, this idea is embedded in the very religion of Islam, where there are many residents within all of the West now. They're already here, and basically many of these people do hold that view. But when we agree to that, and that's the problem. But when we look at the bigger picture is, I think that to a certain extent, Islam is being used as a tool to get to the end game of many of the architects, which is this total surveillance grid, not just on Muslims but on every person.
That's right, and this is exactly where the whole thing is moving. Every day I see some news story about surveillance in the media, and I think we're just going to see more and more of that. I think everybody's going to get on board, and this is part of the nationalist movement that we see around the world. It's not just here in our country. We see it happening in Europe. We see it, and I know you see it happening in Australia as well. People want to be secure. They want somebody to step up to the plate that is able and willing to stop the bleeding, stop the pain, and return their countries back to some sense of normalcy. And you're right, as you said earlier, it's probably never going to happen exactly that way, that we can't go back. But everybody is screaming for more right-wing dictatorial powers to surveil everything in sight. And this is, of course, exactly what the technocrats want as well. This plays right into their hands.
Exactly. And if we look at things, what's taken place in Europe, I mean, Google, Facebook and Twitter, have all agreed to delete online, once again, inverted commas, hate speech at pressure from Germany. Now, one would think, well, this, if you look at from our side of the view, if you're a Christian in the West, you'd say, oh, this is aimed at taking away this speech from Islam that want to basically implement Sharia law. But that's actually not the case. That's the reason, but the actual hate speech this is directed at is nationalist groups. And as you pointed out, in Australia, national groups are rising. We just had a court decision in Bendigo yesterday which basically said that a mosque could be built in this town of Bendigo, even though many of the citizens have had this resistance program going. They've had different marches and programs to try and stop this coming, because a lot of them, citizens, don't want it there. The court said, no, we have religious liberty, it can go ahead. But we see these tensions right throughout Europe, Australia and the United States. Many people understanding what we just spoke about, that the idea of overthrowing government and taking over a country is embedded within Islam and Sharia. But at the same time, here's Google, Facebook and Twitter. Are they really going after the terrorists, the so-called terrorists, or are they going after the home team that is reacting to much of the invasion of Europe, where their own country is changed forever? Merkel came out yesterday and said multiculturalism is a lie. It won't work. There's a parallel societies, even though she's opened the gates. I mean, but she sat down with Zuckerberg and they agreed that Google would instrument and Facebook would implement strategies of censorship within Germany flowing out to greater Europe. And this is really, Patrick, these are incredible days. We're seeing these big moves with technology over the top of the people are really controlling the narrative.
You're right. And I think what a lot of people like Zuckerberg and other tech giants really do not understand is the nature of evil. They seem to just not have a concept of what abject, dark evil is all about. What they ought to do, perhaps, is go embed themselves with some terrorists in the Mideast or somewhere and travel with them as they commit atrocities to the people that they encounter. How they're mercilessly murdered and raped and tortured. If they're caught even with a Bible, they could be put immediately to death, or they could be maimed for life so they could never hold a Bible in their hands again. I mean, this is an evil that we really don't understand in the West. And even though there's stories of it in the media, you could get some videos and stuff, for instance, if you really wanted to find out. By and large, the West is just putting their head in the sand on this and say, no, this isn't evil. This is just an unfortunate situation. And, these people are suffering from climate change delusion or whatever stupid thing they come up with. And, but we're looking into the face of an evil that we haven't seen in the world since Adolf Hitler.
It is an evil ideology. I mean, on Black Friday, I think Saudi Arabia beheaded more than, 55 people. And, speaking a little bit more about that, going into the tech giants, Saudi Arabia was going to sue Twitter users who compare its death penalty to ISIS. And once again, Turkey fines Twitter $51,000 for terrorist propaganda. So some of these states, nations that are actually feeling the heat via this social media platform being Twitter or Facebook, are now coming out with the strong arm of threat saying that, well, if they don't do anything, we will come after you. And I noticed there was a whole Twitter hashtag formed, Sue Me Saudi Arabia, where people were pushing back. But it's interesting that these nations that hold this extreme ideology of beheading people for instance, moral crimes, adultery or whatever it might be, they're feeling the heat back through this social media pressure. And so what they've got to do is either get the social media giants to actually limit it and censor it, or they're going to try and go after them via some sort of international courts. But it's an interesting development, the way we see the media changing. But finally, Patrick, I thought to finish our time together, Canadian canned fresh air instantly sells out in China amid pollution horror. I couldn't believe this story when I read it. Sales of a Canadian company that specialises in canned fresh air have gone through the roof in China as Beijing issued its first pollution red alert. I mean, what a fantastic market, Patrick. Fresh air in a can.
I think it's the perfect market, and I only wish that I didn't think of it first.
It's just incredible, isn't it?
It's just, I know, it's just amazing. And when you talk about fresh air, of course, there's no limit on the air right now. If you fill a bottle, a compressed bottle full of air, there's no charge at all for putting that air in the bottle. Yet I can see someday where, the United Nations or somebody's going to want to get in the middle of that transaction and say, no, you can't do that, or you need a permit to collect the air and transfer the air from one part of the world to the other. But it is just preposterous. And the poor people in China, I mean, you got to feel for them too. Their air is so bad you can almost cut it with a knife some days.
Talking about air, just in closing the last few minutes, I did see a very good YouTube where Mark Morano and his team from, I think they're called CFACT, basically were doing some interviews at the Paris Climate, and they come up with this mask, and they said this mask basically takes away all the carbon pollution. You can wear it. Would you be willing to wear it day by day to actually limit your greenhouse gas expenditure? And, you know, nearly all of the people that they asked said they would be willing to wear this mask around all the time, or they said, oh, we'll wear it in bed. And I said to my wife, well, can you imagine if you were living next to one of these people who believe in the climate change religion, when you go to bed beside your wife, you turn around, there she is wearing this mask because she believes in climate change. I mean, it's just unbelievable, Patrick, the fanaticism with this global climate change religion.
That just speaks to our earlier reference to this being a religion and treated as a religion rather than as any kind of objective science. Any objective thoughts have been thrown out the door, I think, long ago on this climate change issue. And aside from the fanaticism that individuals like this will have, the real action is taking place with the money changing hands behind the scenes. There's going to be the most massive transfer of wealth that the world has ever seen in history. And I think if people do cash onto this, they may say no or let's stop this. But I think if we look back 10 years from now, we're going to see exactly what we're talking about. I think that everything will be in the can, so to speak, on how this money has been captured and spent recklessly on all kinds of other things that have nothing to do with climate change mitigation whatsoever.
Well, Patrick, it's been really great working with you through the year. I want to thank you for all your efforts and thank you for being a part of our broadcast down here, and I look forward to connecting with you again in the new year. Look after your health, friend, and thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you, Liam.